So you have refinanced one of your property to release some equity. But how do you enter that onto Xero? Well, watch this video as I show you how. So you may have refinanced one of your properties and now we need to enter this detail into Xero. How do we go about this? Well, first thing we need to bring into our attention is that we have got a property that was originally valued at £375,000. It's now going to be valued at £600,000, which means there's an increase in value of £225,000. We have legal fees associated with the remortgage, which is expensible, if that's a word, against your profit and loss, which will bring down your taxable profits. We have a revaluation reserve, therefore, of £224,000, which we need to take into account. Unfortunately, because accounting standard changes, we have to reflect this in the profit and loss, even though it's not a genuine profit. It's paper-based profit, but don't worry, it is not taxable. Now, the other side to it is we have payments. So we have the mortgage redemption of £243,750. We've got money that's going to be taken out of the property to yourself of £206,250, which gives you the new mortgage balance of £450,000, which, funny enough, equates to 75% of the total mortgage of the new property value. So how do we enter this into Xero? So that's a good question. We need to have a look at Xero in the first instance. And if we go to the profit and loss, we go to the accounts here and the balance sheet, what we'll end up seeing. Okay, so this is the balance sheet that we have within Xero now. And you'll notice that the property value of £375,000 is in there. I'm not sure what the 5 extra there is, but that's the main property value, which is reconciling to the account there. And if we go down below, we've got the £243,750, which is the original mortgage. So £243,750, which is what's in there as well. So we need to do two things. We need to increase the valuation of the property itself, and then we need to do some other simple things as well. So the first thing I would say to you is we've got the old property value and the new property value, and then we've got this increased value of 225, which needs to be reflected in the accounts. So how do we go about that? Well, it's a good question. So what we are going to do is create a balance sheet adjustment. How do we do that? Here we go. So the first thing I would say is we need to go to accounting. So you may or may not have access to this functionality. If not, you might have to speak to your accountant about getting this information. So what you will be doing is looking for a manual journal, which is at the bottom there. So click on manual journals. That's going to give you this reference there. We're going to click on new journal, and then we're going to call this a revaluation of property. So revaluation. Okay, and the date we're going to put there is the 31st of January 2020. And the description is revaluation. Simple as that. There. And now we've got two accounts. So we need to put in buildings, which you'll see there. And if you've got a building reference, you can put that building reference there. So you might have a property called East Side, for instance. If that's the case, then it could be the East Wing. So that'll be there. And then you'll put a debit. So a debit is increasing the value of the property. So what we're going to do is just go back to this, which shows you the increased value of that property of £225,000, which we will need to enter into this. So 225000, there's your debit entry. And unfortunately, with every equal and opposite, we need a credit. So we're going to go over here, and this time around we've got revaluation, but the account needs to be profit and loss. Now, interesting enough, what we could call this is revaluation. Now, interesting enough, it doesn't have this account within Xero. So we'd have to create an account. So here we go, add new account. And what we're going to do is call this a revaluation account. Now, For most accountants, this is so important. Do not put this in your profit loss if you can avoid it. Try and put it into equity if that's possible. Now, interestingly enough, it's not letting me do that. So let's try that again, shall we? So equity just there. Cool. And we're going to give this a 999 reference because it's really at the back end of the accounts that we want to create. There we go. So we're going to call this a revaluation of property. Okay, so that's that. No VAT, and we're going to click on save on there. So there's the revaluation of my property, and there's the £225,000. So we're going to post that transaction now, and away it goes. To check that things are done correctly, we need to go back to the accounting function at the top there, and then scroll down to balance sheet. So we need to make sure that the date range for Xero is today's date, or the date that you've entered the transaction. So in this regard, I've put in the 31st of January 2020. I now need to click on update, and sure as you can see it, buildings has now got a property value of £600,000, which is indeed the valuation we want to be seeing because of the revaluation by the mortgage company. But we've also now got this £225,000, which is the revaluation of property, which you can see clearly just down there. So that's perfect. Now we've got a system that works. We can now ignore that section, and we now move on to the payments of the mortgages. This is not easy either. So this is the second step process. So what we'll have to do now is go to our business. Now, hopefully you always set up your mortgage accounts and your director's loan accounts within the banking system. And what do I mean by that? Well, go on to accounting and then bank accounts. And for each bank that you use, even if it's dummy accounts, I would advise you set up a add bank account. Even if it's a direct loan account, it doesn't really exist. Set up the bank account anyway, because it makes life really, really easy. So what we're going to show you now is we have set up these bank accounts, and as we said before, we have got a Barclays 123 Main Road. Now, funny enough, whether it's Main Street or Main Road doesn't really make much difference. But what you'll notice that we've got 243,750, which is indeed this balance here. So pretty much that's that. We've also got the 206,250, which is a balance paid to you, and then finally a new mortgage. So what's going to happen? Well, we have to create a new mortgage account. So let's imagine now we're going to create a new Lloyds bank account. Again, this doesn't have to be physically connected to your real Lloyds bank account. If you've got one set up, you can create a dummy one. So what I'm going to do is go to Lloyds just there, click on that, and then we're going to call this Lloyds 123 Main Road. And what we're going to do is account type, we're going to call this other. And then sort code, we'll put in the just dummy details, as you can see here. Now again, you can enter real bank account details if you wanted to. I'm just going to create dummies because this is just an example. I have now created a account 123 Lloyds, as you can see there. There's also a Barclays 123 Main Road there. So we need to clear this bank account and create a balance here. So what we're going to do here is go to manage accounts, and we're going to do a transfer. So this is where we do now a transfer. I'm just going to highlight that. So here we are, transfer money. And what we want to do is transfer money from this account and then basically pay off the old mortgage. So the 123 Main Road is exactly what we want to do. And we're going to be paying off the Barclays 123. Now the amount that we're going to do is the 243,750. So 243,750 goes into there. And the reference can be the 123 Main Road revaluation. Such as that. And then we're going to do transfer. So that's that pretty much done for that bank account. Now you'll notice that we've got the balances. So we'll go back to the bank accounts on the accounting function, scroll down here, And now Barclays has been wiped out. We've got a balance in Lloyd's now of 243,750. And if you go back to that, we know it needs to be this £450,000. So how do we do that? Well, easy. What will happen is that you will then create the new transaction, again transfer money under new. And again, we're going to do from that bank account to your direct loan account, which you should have set up previously. If not, do so. And then the balance will be this 206,250. So we're going to go 206,250 and then say 123 main road revaluation and then click on transfer. That's now transferred all the accounts. We can test all of this out by going on to the bank accounts. The bank account for Lloyds is now £450,000, which you would expect to see with a new mortgage there. The Barclays 123 is now being cleared. That's perfect. So how does it all look like now on the balance sheet? And what we'll do is go to accounting, balance sheet over here. Remember that we need to put in the latest date, so that's 31st of Jan 2020 for this example. Click on update. And you'll notice that the building is now, I'm just going to zoom this up so we could just see the narrative. Albeit Xero is so difficult to get that right. Here we go. So there's the £600,000. Forget the £5, I'm not sure where that's come from. And then if we scroll down here, we've also got the Lloyds 123 account, £450,000. And we've got this 225 revaluation of the property as well. And one thing I did notice is that I did forget this £1,000 fee, that we have this legal fees as well, which is coming from the legal supplier. So we need to put that in there. So this is where we can now go back into our Xero account, scroll down to the direct loan account where it's all been happening. Click on these double 3 lines in here and then press spend money. That spend money can be entered. You can put in, for example, whoever your solicitors are. We're just going to call it ABC for now, which is, well, ignore that it says furniture for now. But we're going to type in legal fees, and then what we're going to put is the £1,000, which is going into the legal expenses. And that's pretty much been paid. Now the VAT, whether they charge for your VAT or not, you need to think about that. But we're going to say that there's no VAT on this transaction, a small legal firm. Press on save, and we have now successfully entered all the transactions from the revaluation statement into Xero on the balance sheet and in the profit and loss as well.